Hey everybody, so this is the group, the combined wolf packs, getting ready to move back to Alaska.
Alaskan Bush People kept viewers hooked for many years. Fans watched the Brown family's journey, full of challenges and major changes. But since the show came to an end, even more has happened behind the scenes. Some family members have faced serious hardships. Now, many people are wondering, where are they now in 2025? Are they still living in the wilderness, or has their lifestyle changed for good? From deep personal losses to surprising legal troubles, the real story of the Brown family is more complex than most fans ever knew. Join us to explore their story. The Alaskan Bush People. Far away from cities and busy roads, the Browns family made a bold choice. They left behind modern life to live in the wild. This family became the center of the reality TV show Alaskan Bush People. First aired on the Discovery Channel on May 6, 2014, the show followed Billy and Amy Brown and their 7 grown children as they tried to survive in some of the roughest places in nature. The early seasons took place deep in the Alaskan wilderness, in places like Copper Center, Hoonah, and Chichagof Island. There were no roads, no electricity, and no neighbors for miles. Later, the family moved to Okanogan County, Washington, and the show continued filming there. But even in a new location, the family still focused on survival and living close to nature. What made the show special wasn't just the wild setting, it was the deep bond between the family members. They called themselves the Wolf Pack and depended on each other for everything. They hardly ever saw outsiders. For the Browns, survival wasn't just about food and shelter. It was about love, teamwork, and trust. Billy Brown, the father, had a strong belief that people could live without modern help. With his wife Amy, he raised their children, Matt, Bam Bam, Bear, Gabe, Noah, Bird, and Rain, far away from modern comforts. Their life was full of hard work. Every tool and shelter had to be made by hand. There was no easy way to live. Their homes were often small cabins built from whatever materials they could find. They weren't fancy. They were cold and uncomfortable at times, but the family made them work. Unlike most people who want comfort, the Browns chose a life of self-reliance. They believed that struggle made them stronger. Getting food was one of their biggest challenges. The men often went hunting or fishing. Sometimes they came back with food. Sometimes they didn't. On hard days, the family looked for wild berries, mushrooms, and plants. Amy Brown only went to town to buy supplies twice a month, so they had to make whatever they had last. The wild brought other dangers too: freezing weather, wild animals, and accidents. But through all of this, the family stayed strong by leaning on each other. Viewers felt connected to them, sharing their ups and downs each season. Even though some critics said parts of the show were fake or planned, fans still loved it. It felt different from other reality shows, more real and full of heart. It grew popular and lasted many seasons. But in August 2020, disaster hit. Wildfires in Washington burned down the Browns' home. They lost their shelter and many memories. After that, the show quietly stopped. No new episodes aired, and no one officially said it was over. Fans were left wondering what happened. Was the family okay? Were they still living in the wild? Even though Alaskan Bush People is no longer on TV, the family's story is still remembered. Over time, they have gone through many changes, faced sad losses, and reached personal goals. Let's take a simple look at what has happened to each family member, mainly those who have passed away or gotten into trouble. Billy Brown. Billy Brown was not your typical reality TV star. He wasn't born in the wild or raised in a log cabin. In fact, Billy was born in 1952 in Fort Worth, Texas. and grew up in a comfortable, upper-middle-class suburb. As a young boy, he had everything he could want: a nice home, a loving family, and a good life. But everything changed when he was just 16. A terrible plane crash took the lives of his parents and sister, leaving Billy all alone in the world. He later claimed he was pressured into giving up his rights to the family fortune, and from that point on, he was on his own. With no family or money, Billy began to wander across the country, searching for meaning and a place to call home. Eventually, Billy found work as a commercial fisherman in the North Pacific. It was there that he met the love of his life, Ami. Together, they started a family, 5 sons and 2 daughters. But Billy didn't want to raise his children in a city or even in a regular neighborhood. He had a different dream. Billy wanted to live off the land, off the grid, and closer to nature. So he moved his entire family to the deep, rugged wilderness of Alaska. It wasn't easy. The winters were long and harsh. Food was hard to come by, and at times, the family faced trouble. In 1980, Billy was even charged with horse theft. Later, he and his family were accused of lying about living in Alaska to receive benefits, which led to a legal case and a plea deal. But Billy kept going, and eventually, his wild lifestyle caught the attention of TV producers. In 2014, Alaskan Bush People began airing on the Discovery Channel. The show followed Billy and his family as they hunted, built homes, and lived off the land. Billy quickly became the heart of the show, strong, wise, and full of wild energy. Viewers loved watching the Browns survive in the wild, and Billy was the one who kept the family strong through every storm. For 12 seasons, Billy led the way. Even when the family moved to Washington State, far from their Alaskan roots, Billy still tried to live as close to nature as possible. But behind the scenes, Billy was struggling. In 2019, he started having trouble breathing. At first, doctors thought it was a lung issue, but later, they found the real problem: his heart was weakening. Doctors told him again and again to leave the high mountains, that he needed more oxygen and better care. But Billy refused. He told his family that he would rather die on the land he loved than live in a hospital or a city. That was the kind of man he was, strong-willed and deeply connected to the wilderness. On February 7, 2021, Billy suffered a seizure and passed away at the age of 68. The news hit his family and fans hard. His son Bear posted a heartfelt message on Instagram announcing the death of his father and what the family needed at the moment. Billy Brown's death was a big loss, not just for his family, but also for the many fans who had watched Alaskan Bush People from the start. People all over the world felt sad because they had followed his journey for years and grew to love him. For his wife Amy and their children, it was a very hard time. They had lost the man who had always led them, protected them, and taught them how to live in the wild. But even in their sadness, the Brown family stayed strong. They remembered what Billy had always told them: to stick together, live simply, and never give up. Just like he would have wanted, they continued living the life he believed in. By doing that, they kept his memory alive and showed how much he meant to them. Amber Nicole Branson. Amber Nicole Branson's life began on February 8, 1976, in the town of Wichita Falls, Texas. From her early years, it was clear that she had a special spirit. She was gentle, giving, and full of warmth. Those who knew her often spoke of her generous nature and how she had a way of comforting people just by being around. Raised in a close and loving family, Amber grew up with her parents. Her family taught her the value of love, kindness, and staying close to those who matter most. As she grew older, Amber followed her own unique path through life. One of the most public parts of her journey came when she appeared briefly in the reality TV series Alaskan Bush People, which followed her aunt, Amy Brown, and her family. Although Amber only appeared in a few early episodes, viewers noticed her calm energy and quiet strength. She didn't chase fame, but her warmth shined through. Her bond with Amy was strong, and being part of the show helped bring them even closer. In her personal life, Amber became a mother and later a grandmother. She married Sean Austin, and together they had 2 sons, Braden and Jace. She later welcomed a 3rd child, and eventually she became a grandmother to 4 beautiful grandchildren. Although her marriage to Sean ended, and they never made peace before her passing, Amber remained devoted to her children and her growing family. Her kids and grandkids brought light into her life, and she always put them first. But behind the loving smiles and caring words, Amber was carrying a deep emotional struggle. For many years, she battled mental health issues, an invisible pain that many people face, but few feel comfortable talking about. To help cope, she also turned to substance use. There were times when she seemed to be making progress, giving hope to her family that she was healing. But the fight was long and difficult, and eventually, the weight of her struggles became too much to bear. In April 2020, a heartbreaking tragedy took place. Amber was found outside her home in Hudson Oaks, Texas, with terrible burns covering over 90% of her body. According to reports, she had started the fire herself. When emergency responders arrived, she told them her injuries were self-inflicted and described it as a faith test. She was quickly rushed to a Dallas hospital and taken to a burn center, but the doctors explained that her injuries were too severe to survive. On April 30th, her family made the devastating decision to remove her from life support. She passed away peacefully in the early morning hours of May 1st, 2020. She was 44 years old. Her uncle Les shared the sad news with the world, describing Amber as a loving soul with a heart full of kindness. Her passing left a hole in the hearts of her family, especially her Aunt Amy and the Alaskan Bush People cast. Though she is no longer here, Amber's memory lives on, reminding us to cherish the people we love and to support those who may be silently struggling inside. Bear Brown. Bear Brown, whose real name is Solomon Isaiah Freedom Brown, is one of the most unforgettable personalities from the reality show Alaskan Bush People. Known for his wild energy, fearless attitude, and adventurous lifestyle, Bear grew up in the wilderness of Alaska alongside his parents, Billy and Amy Brown, and his 6 siblings. On the show, he often ran through the forest, climbed trees, and called himself the King of Extreme. Bear is the 3rd son in the Brown family. He's not only known for his wild ways, but also for his big heart and loyalty to his family. After the family moved from Alaska to Washington, Bear continued to live a life close to nature. He became more active on social media, where he often posts photos, videos, and updates about his life in the woods, his family, and his personal challenges. In January 2022, Bear shared some happy news. He had married Raven Brown, the love of his life. The couple had been through a rocky relationship but seemed to finally find peace together. They have 3 young children and were planning to build a future closer to the mountains. It seemed like things were getting better for Bear after a tough few years. But in March 2022, Bear's life took a sudden, troubling turn. News broke that he had been arrested near his home in Washington for 4th-degree domestic violence. The incident shocked fans and left many wondering what had gone wrong. According to a police report, Bear and Raven had gotten into an argument while moving into a camping trailer. Raven said that Bear began yelling at her and tried to take her phone. At one point, he reportedly pushed her onto the bed to get it. She later told officers that he was acting crazy and that she didn't feel safe with him in the trailer. The report mentioned that Raven had a scratch on her finger, but no other visible injuries were found. Bear was not drunk or high, and he didn't strangle or choke her. He was arrested and taken to Okanogan County Jail, where he spent the weekend before being released without bond. In April 2022, Bear accepted a plea deal, and the case was settled quietly. Since then, Bear and his family have kept a low profile. The once loud and wild reality star has shared less on social media, focusing instead on healing and staying close to his children. While the arrest was a serious moment in his life, many fans still hope that Bear can turn things around and find peace within himself and his family. Joshua Bam Bam Brown. Joshua Brown grew up in one of the most remote and rugged parts of the country. As the second oldest child in the Brown family, he played an important role in helping his parents, Billy and Amy Brown, raise his younger siblings and survive off the land. The Brown family lived an unusual lifestyle. They stayed far from cities and modern life, depending on nature for everything. Joshua learned how to hunt, fish, and build things from a young age. Life in the Alaskan wilderness taught him how to be tough, quiet, and focused, traits that earned him the nickname Bam Bam. But life hasn't been easy for Joshua. In May 2022, he was involved in a terrible car accident that changed everything. While driving his GMC North on the SR 97 freeway in Washington, a Chevrolet Camaro traveling the opposite way suddenly crossed into his lane and hit his vehicle head-on. The crash killed a woman in the other car. Joshua was taken to the hospital with back pain and other minor injuries, but he survived. After an investigation, the police said that Joshua was not at fault for the crash. Still, the emotional impact was heavy. Being part of an accident where someone lost their life is something that stays with a person forever. After the crash, Joshua returned to the family ranch to recover both physically and emotionally. This wasn't Joshua's first legal trouble. Years earlier, he and his father, Billy Brown, were charged with fraud. They had claimed to live in Alaska full-time in order to receive oil dividend checks, even though they were living elsewhere. In 2016, both men were sentenced to 30 days in jail, though most of that time was suspended. It was a difficult time for the Brown family, but they took responsibility for their actions. In recent years, Joshua has stepped away from the spotlight a bit. He's been working on his sobriety, choosing to live a healthier and more focused life. He has also developed a love for photography and often shares peaceful nature photos online. Through these photos, he tells quiet stories of beauty, wilderness, and healing. Joshua is also believed to be interested in supporting addiction recovery programs, hoping to use his story to help others who are struggling. He's shown interest in protecting the environment, especially the wild lands of Alaska that shaped him. With his experience and voice, he may soon partner with wildlife groups and conservation efforts. Though he's been through pain and made mistakes, Joshua Bam Bam Brown is still standing strong. Rain Brown. Rain Brown, whose full name is Merry Christmas Catherine Raindrop Brown, was born on November 23, 2002, in the remote wilderness of Hoona, Alaska. She is the youngest of 7 children born to Billy and Amy Brown, the well-known family featured on the reality TV show Alaskan Bush People. From the moment she was born, Rain's life was anything but ordinary. Growing up far away from cities, schools, and modern conveniences, Rain's childhood was centered around survival. The Brown family lived off the grid, meaning they had no electricity, no internet, and no running water. Instead of learning to ride bikes or play video games like most kids, Rain was taught how to start fires, fish, hunt, and forage for food. She knew how to build shelters, survive freezing weather, and live in harmony with nature. Despite these harsh conditions, Rain stood out for her cheerful spirit. Her big smile and positive attitude often helped her family through difficult days in the wilderness. Even in moments of hardship, she remained hopeful, showing a deep inner strength beyond her years. In 2014, when she was just 11 years old, Rain's life changed dramatically. The family's unusual way of living was turned into a TV show called Alaskan Bush People. Overnight, Rain went from being a quiet girl in the woods to a television star watched by millions. While she handled the attention with grace, the spotlight brought new challenges and pressures that Rain hadn't faced before. As she grew older, Rain continued to show her independence, but life behind the scenes became more complicated. Her relationship with her brother Noah Brown grew tense. What began as normal sibling fights turned into something much more serious. Noah eventually filed for a restraining order, claiming Rain used substances and threatened him. The court denied his request, but the emotional damage to their relationship was lasting. Rain felt deeply hurt by the actions of someone she once admired, especially when Noah's wife supported the claims against her. Then, in April 2025, Rain found herself in serious legal trouble. She and her husband, Josiah Lorton, were arrested and charged with first-degree burglary, first-degree malicious mischief, and second-degree criminal trespass. Authorities said the couple had stolen $75,000 in cash, firearms, and other items from Josiah's uncle, Jason Ayert. They were held in Okanogan County Jail in Washington, but later released without bail. Rain says she's not guilty, and while she and her husband wait for their next court date, they're still trying to enjoy life and stay hopeful that things will turn out okay. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.